My name is Dottie Free. I come from a long line of Irish and English Yankees, but I was raised in Phoenix and Scottsdale. Sometimes I write about my parents and their hard-scrabble lives, and sometimes I write about mine, about being a motherless child and having to raise siblings while I was still a child. The part of my life people seem most fascinated with is my 10 years in San Francisco's Haight-Ashbury. I arrived at age 19 at the beginning of that glorious moment in time when young people were smoking weed and dropping acid and having tons of sex and believing that there was a gentler, kinder way to live. I was pregnant for the summer of love, so my life soon consisted of trying to make my welfare check last all month and making sure my baby had clean diapers. Still, I was young and beautiful, and I had more than enough men to keep life exciting and ever changing. I hitchhiked with my boyfriend and my toddler to Mexico, then spent a summer living with him and my toddler and our new baby in Northern California in a plastic teepee. I found a new man and moved into his commune just north of San Francisco and had a baby with him. We bought 70 acres in the knobs of Kentucky and learned how to feed ourselves, and had two more babies. Once they were all raised and taking care of themselves, I got educated and employed, and finally bought myself a Cape Cod house in the sweet little college town of Lexington. Now, with three husbands behind me and five children out on their own and thriving, I am free to do whatever I fancy. When I learned that I was going to have to produce digital writing, I was terrified. I wasn't even sure what that meant, let alone how to do it. I was forced to learn how to use the most basic design software and relied heavily on my storytelling and design skills to produce my origin story and the new modern version of Little Red Riding Hood. It was a challenging and exciting experience to let photographs and art images guide and occasionally define what I wrote. My name is Dorothy. I'm an old woman named after my mother. If I was going to write my life story, I would have to start with my parents. Their Christian names were Franklin and Dorothy. But my Grammy and aunties back east called them Chick and Dodo. Chick was Grammy's beautiful, beloved boy who left generations of struggling Yankees to go out west with Dodo and 4-year-old Frankie and 2-year-old me. He got a job delivering mail and sent home a black and white photo of himself standing under a date palm. 2 years and two babies later, Dodo left and went back east with my little brothers. Frankie and I stayed out west with Daddy, who quickly brought home a new mother. Josephina was taller than Daddy, with dark hair and dark cold eyes. She never hugged me or smiled at me. She wasn't mean, but she wasn't nice. I hated having a stepmother. All my friends had real mothers. My real mother was a woman named Dodo, who I could barely remember. Daddy saved a picture of her. He is standing beside her in a park, cradling baby Frankie in one arm. Dodo is shorter than Daddy and looks pale and apple-shaped beneath her knee-length coat. Her hair is parted in the middle and pulled back. Even in black and white, I can tell that it's red. She is smiling at the photographer and looks nothing like my cold, dark stepmother. I hated Dodo's name. Dodos were stupid and extinct. The only time I'd ever seen one was in an Alice in Wonderland story. I thought the dodo looked ugly. And the story made no sense. Daddy told me dodos died out because they laid their eggs in other birds' nests, but that's not how it happened. The downy, soft birds were a cross between doves and pigeons, bigger than a turkey and flightless with tiny wings. They lived alone on an island off the coast of Madagascar, a paradise really, where they slept in the forest and feasted on fruits and nuts, growing bigger and fatter, thriving and evolving, and with no predators, fearless. That's how it happened that they weren't afraid of the Dutch sailors who landed in the 1500s and sent word home that they could walk right up and club the dodos on the head. Apparently, they weren't very tasty, but the monkeys and pigs and rats that the sailors brought with them thought they were tasty enough, and their eggs were delicious. So poor Dodo, Ditus ineptus, became famous for being one of the first, best examples of extinction. They've only been gone for 400 years, but for a long time, people thought they were mythological creatures like griffins and unicorns. That's kind of how it was with my mom. For 20 years, I never saw or heard from her. Little Red Riding Hood, a new version of an old tale by Dottie Free. Everyone knows the story of Red Riding Hood and the Big Bad Wolf, but we all know that was a fairy tale. This is what really happened on that fateful day. Once upon a time, there really was a little girl who everyone called Red. She always tried very hard to be good. So when her stepmother told her she needed to bring a basket of goodies to her grandmother, she said of course she would, but she heard there was a big bad wolf living in the woods, and she was afraid it might try to eat her. Nonsense, said the stepmother. You've been reading too many fairy tales. There are no wolves in these woods, and even if there were, what would they want with a silly little girl like you? Now put on your cape. No, not that one. The one that I made for you. After you've delivered the basket, I want you to come right back home and finish your chores. Do not stop and dilly-dally. So Red picked up the basket, which was much heavier than she had expected, and started on her way down the narrow path, past all the friendly houses, and into the deep dark woods that were filled with shadows. The further she walked, the more certain she was that someone or something was hiding behind the trees, watching her every move. Suddenly, an enormous wolf jumped out from behind the trees and frightened her so badly that she almost dropped the basket. "What do you want?" she asked, trying to sound brave, but shaking like a leaf in her little shoes. "I'm not sure," the wolf said. "Tell me what you've got in that basket of yours." "I've got a giant carrot. Do you like carrots? I've heard they can improve your eyesight." "Are you trying to mess with me?" the wolf said in a not very nice voice. "I am a wolf. I eat meat. See if you've got a ham in there or a chicken, and be quick about it." "Oh, what great good luck. I do indeed have a chicken. My stepmother put this old rooster in here because he doesn't lay eggs, and he just annoys the hens. Unfortunately for you, I'm not partial to old roosters, and I'm getting hungrier by the minute. You better come up with something fast, or you and your basket are going to be my next meal," said the mean old wolf. "I have a great idea," said Red. "My grandma's house is just a little ways down the path. She's ever so nice, and I'm sure she wouldn't mind making something delicious for you to eat." Well, let's get on with it. You're really starting to get on my last nerve, the wolf said. Bonjour, Grandma. As luck would have it, Grandma was home, sitting in her favorite chair, knitting something big and green. My lands and stars, you are a sight for sore eyes, said Grandma, jumping up and going in the house, and coming straight back out with a tray of fresh cookies. Where did you get that doggie? Never mind. Wait here, and I'll get you both some plates and napkins. Not really a big fan of cookies either, grumbled the wolf as he helped himself to several. Suddenly the wolf began to gasp and choke. Were there nuts in those cookies? He howled in disbelief. Of course there were, said Grandma. I always put walnuts in my cowboy cookies. Silly little doggie. Everyone loves my cookies. What's wrong with you, anyway? You know, you're acting just a teensy bit rude. Thanks a lot, Grandma. I hope you're happy. And by the way, I'm not a dog. I'm the big bad wolf, and I didn't come here for cookies. I came here to eat you and your granddaughter. Well, then, I'd say you got what you deserve. I'm really sorry to hear that you're going to die, but it's your fault the way you just gobbled my cookies down without waiting for them to cool. My granddaughter is just going to have to find herself another dog, maybe a friendlier one this time. Thanks, Grandma. You're the best. Where would I be without you? Said Red. Not to worry, sweetie. This isn't my first rodeo. I knew he was a wolf the whole time. I was just yanking his chain. Of course, I didn't know he was allergic to nuts, but like I said, he had it coming. Now let me finish my knitting. I'm going to make you a new green hoodie so you're not so easy to spot in the woods. The end.